go. Greetings, everybody. This is your favorite specialist, James Green. Hope everybody's having a great day, and I hope your day gets better as the day goes on. Just something that I want to bring to y'all, something I've been thinking about for a while, and I decided to make a video about it. Something that I've lived through, and I've spoken to other people who have lived through this similar situation, and it just motivated me to bring this message to you. And hopefully you can relate to it, you can use it, you need it, or you know someone who needs it, who needs to hear it for it to be a blessing for them. So just pass it along, and hopefully this video brings a blessing on somebody. The message that I want to bring is simply suffering for someone else's blessing. Okay, we all hear the saying, or I've heard the saying, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, we can answer that halfway. Sometimes bad things happen to good people because good people make bad decisions. Okay, we're not perfect. We all fall short in the eyes of God. But knowing that we'll never be perfect, but to have the desire to be perfect keeps us on the right path to do the right thing, which is God's way. Okay, and now sometimes bad things happen to good people that we can't control. We have no control over it, and those are the answers that we don't know the answer to. Only God knows the answer to it because it's part of God's plan. And that's one thing that we need to understand. God puts us through situations because He knows what we can handle. He knows what we can overcome. And by keeping the faith and praying and continuing to do the things that God wants us to do, regardless of how bad it is or how bad it gets, once we overcome it, we are now examples of God's unfailing love and mercy. And when others see that, not only will they see the power of God, but they'll also become followers of God. Quick devotional. 2014, August 29th, my son was born. My birthday's in November. So, we went home for my birthday. My mother and my grandmother got to see him. And my mother said that she'll watch him while I go out. I wanted to go out for my birthday. So before I went out, I went up to my grandmother's room. And the heater was plugged in the outlet and it was on. But I smelled something burning. So I took it out and I just plugged it into another outlet. I thought the outlet was bad. It was later determined that the house needed to be rewired, and while I was gone, my grandmother's room caught on fire, which eventually caught the whole house on fire. Fortunately, my mother was not asleep. She was waiting until I came back to go to sleep. But she got my son out. She went back to get my grandmother, even though the fire started in my grandmother's room while she was asleep. Fortunately, by the grace of God, everybody got out alive, no serious injuries. But because of that, my mother developed COPD. Now, I'm not completely sure what it is, but I do know it affects your breathing, it affects your endurance, it affects your eating, and just a few other things. I don't want to go too in depth because I don't know everything about it. But I do know she has to take medicine every day for the rest of her life. And for a while, for years, I put that fire on my conscience. I put that weight on my shoulders because I felt like I'm the one that caused the fire. I should have never plugged into the outlet, or I should have just left it unplugged. So ended up going to counseling for it. Spoke to my mom, and I didn't know at the time that the fire is what caused her to get COPD. So when that was brought up and I was aware of that, I became more upset at myself because now I felt like I was the reason for my mom's suffering. Well, I had to talk to some people about that as well, and talk to my mother about it as well. So one thing that I noticed, and at that time I wasn't where I wanted to be, spiritually, mentally, just in life, period. My head was not where it needed to be. I was not on the path to righteousness. And during that phase, what I realized and what I saw was my mom never complained about it. My mom, she continued to pray. She continued to go to church. She continued to keep the faith. She continued to be God's example and do things God's way. And it finally hit me one day, and by me seeing that and witnessing that, it brought me closer to God. It made me want to build a relationship with God because I wasn't where I wanted to be. I wanted my life to change, but I knew that I had to get a relationship with God. I knew I had to start doing things God's way instead of my way. And by me doing that, I became closer to God. And the man that's speaking to you right now was not the man back then. So even though, I might get upset about the situation, or get upset about my mom suffering, I have to thank that situation, because through her suffering, it brought my blessing to light. And the blessing is, I have a great life and I have a great relationship with God. So that's just my testimony. Now, transferring it back to my listeners, if you're going through something, you should thank God for putting you through that situation, because first, God knows that you're strong enough to handle that situation. He'll never put more on you that you can bear. So by him putting you through the situation, first you thank him for knowing and believing that you're that strong to go through that situation, and to keep the faith and to keep praying and to continue to do things God's way. Okay? And the people around you, maybe somebody needs a blessing, but they need a blessing through your suffering. Okay? And now also you might be suffering. You might need a blessing. And you might see somebody suffering, but by you seeing them suffer, but still continuing to keep the faith and do things God's way, it'll motivate you to be a follower of God and to be an example of his unfailing love and mercy, and to become one of his soldiers so that you can do the same. So that's just some encouraging words. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I didn't want to take too much up of your day, too much of your time. So y'all be blessed. Please be inspired. Put a smile on somebody's face. And I'll see y'all next time.